Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Orchard Management Part 2. In this session, we are going to study about laying out orchard, how to lay out an orchard that we are going to study. And this is a two type of laying, that is the first vertical row planting pattern and the second one is alternate row planting pattern. So these are the two different types. And in the vertical row planting pattern, we are having first square system and second the rectangular system. In alternate row planting pattern, we are having first hexagonal system, second is the diagonal system, third is the triangular system, and the fourth one is the contour system. So we are going to study this laying out orchard in this particular session. So let us start. First, the laying out an orchard. So any method of layout should aim to providing maximum number of trees per hectare and allocate space for the proper development of the trees and ensuring the convenience in orchard cultural practices. So what is our main aim to lay out an orchard? The main aim is that we must plant the maximum number of trees per hectare. And first thing is this, and the second thing is educate spacing for the proper development of the trees. It should not be very clumsy, it should not be very close, because if we plant the fruit crops very close, then there will be competition for soil, water, and also the sunlight. So there will be no proper growth for this fruit crops and you will not have a proper, you can say, fruit at the time of harvesting. So we must plant maximum number of trees, keeping in mind that we must maintain the adequate space for proper development of the trees and ensuring the convenience and orchard cultural practices. We must follow those some of the important cultural practices for managing the orchard. The system of layout can be grouped under the two broad categories. What are those categories? Vertical row planting pattern and alternate row planting pattern. In the first slide, we have already showed that we are having two types of laying out an orchard: vertical row planting pattern and the alternate row planting pattern. So let us start. In the former planting pattern, that is vertical row planting pattern, square system and the rectangular system, the trees set in a row is exactly perpendicular to those. So whether it is a square system, whether it is a rectangular system, the trees are planted in a row like this. Okay, and in this also. Okay, so we can have some trees in this way, so they are perpendicular to each other. So this is the vertical row planting pattern. Trees set in their adjacent rows. So in this system, the trees are set in adjacent rows. In the latter planting pattern, that is in hexagonal, quinox, that is the diagonal, and the triangular, the trees in the adjacent row are not exactly vertical. Instead, the trees in the even rows are midway between those in the odd rows. So here, because our land is in hexagonal form, our land is in the diagonal form, or our land is in the triangular form, so according to that our tree are planted, right? So they are not in a proper row. The various layout systems used in the following. First one is the vertical row planting pattern. So in this, the first type is the square system. In this system, trees are planted on each comer of a square, whatever may be the planting distance. So this is quite, you can see this is the square like this, 3 meter by 3 meter. So this is our planting system, right? So this is the most commonly followed system and it is very easy to lay out. So it should be done in a proper square system. The central place between the four trees may be advantageously used to raise short-lived filler trees. So here we can have some other trees that should be a short-lived filler trees. This system permits intercropping and the cultivation in two directions. So we can have some other cropping as well in these land. So that is why it is also called as intercropping, right? Rectangular system. Second type is the rectangular system. Now, in this system, the trees are planted on each corner of a rectangle. So here you can see it is forming a rectangle. It is 3 meter by 2 meters. So it is forming a rectangle. So at the distance between any two rows is more than the distance between any two trees in a row. So the distance here, it is 3 meter, but the distance here in this row, that is 3 meter, but the distance in this row, it must be 2 meter. So there is no equal distribution of space per tree, but in the case of a square, there is 2 meter by 2 meter or 3 meter by 3 meter. So there is equal distribution of space for per tree. But in the case of rectangle, there is no equal distribution of space per tree. The wider alley space available between the rows of the trees permit easy intercultural operations and even the use of mechanical operations. So we can have some other cropping in between these land. That is the short-lived plant we can grow here. Now, the third type is the triangular system. In this system, the trees are planted as in the square system, but the plant in the second, fourth, sixth, and such other alternate rows are planted midway between the first, third, fifth, and such other alternate rows. So here we can see the plants they are planted as in the square system only, but here the plant is in the second, fourth, and sixth, and such other alternate rows. We can have other rows also. In that, first, third, and fifth plant can be there. So this system has no special advantage over the square system except providing more open space for the trees and for the intercrop. So suppose if we are having a big trees, right, then we can go for the triangular system because the canopy and for the proper growth of the tree, we require a proper space. So this particular system provide a more open space for the trees for the intercrops, right? So here we can see the triangular system. Okay, so it is not only difficult layout, but the cultivation also in the plots under this system become difficult. So this is one of the difficult system for management. Okay, and its planting is also not easy. So it is not only difficult layout, but the cultivation also in the plots under this system is quite difficult. Now, the fourth one, that is the hexagonal system. In this method, the trees are planted in each corner of an equilateral triangle. So hexagonal, if we draw like this. Okay, so in this method, the trees are planted in each corner of an equilateral triangle. This way, 6 trees form a hexagon with the 7th tree in the center. So we can have like this: one tree, 2 tree, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we can have the 7th tree in the center. So this way, 6 trees form the hexagon with the 7th tree in the center. Therefore, this system is also called as a septule, as a 7th tree is accommodated in the center of the hexagon. So if you see the figure, this is suppose 1 tree, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So it is forming an hexagon like this. And 7th one is in the center. So this system provide equal spacing, but it is difficult to lay out. Okay, like a square pattern, they provide the equal spacing. This hexagon is also providing the equal spacing, but it is very difficult to make such a layout. The perpendicular distance between any two adjacent rows is equal to the product of 0.866 into the distance between any two trees. So this is the distance. If it is 1 meter, right, or 2 meters, suppose 2 meter is there, then you can multiply this 0.866 with 2. And that will be the perpendicular distance between any two adjacent rows is equal. So that will be 1.732. Like this we can calculate. The perpendicular distance between any two adjacent rows is equal to the product of 0.866 into the distance between any two trees. As the perpendicular distance between any two rows is less than unity, this system accommodates 15% more trees than the square system. This is very, very important. So this system is accommodating more trees in comparison to the square system. The only drawback of this system is that its layout is quite difficult. The limitations of this systems are that it is difficult to lay out and the cultivation is not so easy done as in the square system, right? So the only difficult is to lay out, right? And the another drawback is that cultivation is quite difficult in the case of hexagonal pattern. Diagonal, next one is the diagonal or quincunx system. This is the square method, but with one more plant in the center of the square. So it is forming a diagonal like this. So this will accommodate double the number of plants, but does not provide square spacing. So it is not providing any square spacing, but you can increase the number of plants. The central filler tree chosen may be short-lived one. This system can be followed when the distance between the permanent trees is more than 10 meters, right? So if the distance between the tree is more than 10 meters, then we can have such type of pattern. As there will be competition between the permanent and the filler trees, the filler tree should be removed after few years when the main trees come to be bearing. So when there is a fruiting in, you can say in the case of the main tree, so at that particular we can remove the filler tree because there will be the competition for the nutrients that is available in the soil. There will be the competition for the water availability. There will be the competition for the sunlight. So for this we can remove the filler trees. Now again, this triangular system we have already discussed. Next is the contour system. It is generally followed on the hills where the plants are planted along the contour across the slope. So here we can see we are having the slope, and so here we are having the ridges and furrows, and in this way we are planting our trees. So it is particularly suits to the land with the undulated topography, the topography which is undulated, not a plain type of topography. So where there is a greater danger of erosion and irrigation of the orchard is quite difficult. In this particular scenario, the irrigation is difficult and there is always a danger of erosion. So the main purpose of this system is to minimize the land erosion. First of all, there should be a pattern or should be a system that should minimize the land erosion and to convert soil moisture so as to make the slope fit for growing fruit and planting crops. So there must be maintenance of soil moisture. Soil moisture should always be there in the soil so that we can have a proper growing fruit trees there, a proper plantation crops there. So the contour line is so designed and graded in such a way that the flow of water in the irrigation channels becomes slow and thus find time to penetrate into the soil without causing erosion, right? So the contour line is designed in such a way that water that is flowing, it should have a irrigation channel so that allows the water to go deep into the soil, and that water will be available in the form of soil moisture, so there will not be any erosion. Terrace system, on the other hand, refers to the planting in the flat strip of land formed across the sloping side of hills lying level along the contours. Terraced field rise in the steps and above the other and help to bring more area into productive use and also prevent the soil erosion. So terrace fields are there. We are having some steps, right? And that steps are very important as it prevent the soil erosion. So the width of the contour terrace varies according to the nature of the slope. So it depends upon the slope. We are having the contour terrace farming. If the slope becomes stiff, the width of the terrace is narrower and vice versa. And if the planting distance under the contour system may not be uniform. In South India, the tea is planted in contour either in a single hedge system or in a double hedge system. So accordingly, we can have a single tea hedge or a double tree hedge according to the available of the land per terrace. So double hedge contour planting system accommodates nearly 22% higher population than the single hedge system. So here we are having sometimes for exactly for the tea planting, sometimes we are having the double hedge and sometimes we are having the single hedge system. So the double hedge contour planting system accommodates nearly 22% higher population than the single hedge system, right? And the number of plant population that can be accommodated in this system is, that is the plant population, n is the number of tree into unit area divided by d into y plus z. So let us know what are these units. So n is the number of hedges. Suppose there is a 1 hedge, then it will be 1. Suppose it is 2 hedge, then n will be 2, right? The distance between the plant, so we can measure the distance between the plant accordingly, and we can have y, that is the distance between the hedges, z, that is the vertical distance between the row, and this system in tea helps to get early high yield, conserve soil and suppresses the weed growth. So this is one of the way to maintain the distance, and we can have a proper planting pattern on the terrace farming. So this system in tea helps a great early high yield, conserve the soil and also suppress the weed growth. In South Indian hills, peas and beans are sown under the paired row system. So we are having both these plants grown simultaneously in the South Indian hills, that is pea and beans. Okay, they are opted to grow in a paired row system, which is almost similar to the double hedge planting system. So this is very, very important. Double hedge planting system that is not only opted for growing the teas, but also for the peas and beans in South Indian hills. The seeds are sown at 10 centimeter interval in each double row of 30 centimeter apart, with the distance of 1.5 meter between each pair between each pair of the rows. So the seeds are sown means the distance between the two seeds that is sown, that is at 10 centimeter interval, and the double row of that is means the distance between the two row that should maintain 30 centimeter. Okay, with the distance of 1.5 meter each pair of rows. So in this way we can have a terrace farming in the South Indian hills. So we have seen that we are having the vertical and the horizontal row pattern, and we are having the square planting pattern, we are having the rectangular planting pattern, we are having the triangular, hexagonal, diagonal, and also the terrace farming on the hilly region, right? So according to our land availability, according to the type of crop we are growing, we can have so many availability of the pattern, right? So any pattern which is suiting to our crop, which is suiting to our availability of the land, we can opt. So this is one of the very important topic. So this is all about this planting pattern for the orchard management. We will have some more session to complete this particular topic. Till then, thank you very much.